art and Judaism. Can anyone tell me, just from your gut reaction, would there be any potential clash between those two ideas, and if so, where? Maybe if you don't mind, if I ask me to move to the side, you're just blocking those of you. If you don't mind, thank you. Okay, is there any potential clash? Yes.
What is our, a lot of the time?
Explain, what do you mean?
Representations and statues.
Okay, we have to do that. How do you do with statues? Right? Very good. How are we going to do with statues? Right? Is there a problem with statues? Not a problem with statues? Good. Where else might you potentially see conflict? Yeah, Ezra?
Youth also.
Okay, there might be potential modesty issues. Not all art, believe it or not, is considered modest. I know that's shocking for people. Yeah.
In terms of scheduling, like working on Shabbat.
Okay, potentially maybe as an artiste, you have to work around the clock. Okay, I mean, if there's any industry. Okay, but good, great. Any other? Yeah.
Greek theology versus beauty.
Okay, if there's too much, if we're saying that beauty is like this ideal that we worship, that's not a very Jewish ideal. Any other potential areas of conflict? Okay. What about congruency between Judaism and art? Does anyone see any inherent type of relationship in a positive sense between Judaism and art? Yeah.
Make it more mudar, as in like, let's say, like, you know, like an Aron Kodesh, like, you know, making it more.
Right. So those of you, I don't know if anyone was here 2 years ago, but before Yoel Markius built this beautiful Aron Kodesh, we had an Aron Kodesh, an ark that was built by two guys. I'm not going to mention their name. And like, they didn't like measure the dimensions properly, and when you like carried it, it would like crack and break. You know what I mean? But this is nicer. You want to make as nice of an ark. It's going to house the Torah. You want to make it nice. You want to make it beautiful. We just finished a holiday of Sukkot. For those of you that I'm sure are aware, there's this notion of an etrog that has to be beautiful. Zet kili vanveu. This is my God, and I'll glorify Him. We use things, you know, for lighting candles, for Hanukkah, for Shabbat. We use silver. We use the Shabbat table is supposed to look nice, right? There's this notion of beauty in Judaism that's very powerful. Where else do we see a lot of Judaism and art? Yes?
Well, the whole Mishkan was like beautiful and how it was made, and they have music.
Right. Think about the Mishkan, right? The tabernacle. How the beauty and the ambiance, right? And the music and the gold. I mean, it was like totally like over the top. You know, they talk. Anybody here Hungarian? No, so I can make fun of Hungarians. Do you know how like Hungarians are like ungepatchke? Anyone know what that means? Like Hungarians like to do things over the top. Like they say, like Hungarians have like chandeliers. You know what I mean? They have like these big fancy chandeliers. I'm Polish, so you know it's like that. So you know, so like these big chandeliers, right? So over the top. The Mishkan is like over the top. You really need so much gold? Like, does God really care about so much gold? Very strange. So we have to understand what is that relationship and why we have that relationship. I want to give you a packet that when I photocopied it this morning at chat, thank you chat for the photocopying. I think I took the page and put it a bit on an angle. So what can you do? Can't complain, and I was not about to photocopy it again. I want to read to you a letter that Rav Avram Yitzchak Kohen Cook, a section of this letter that he wrote to the Betzalel Institute. The Betzalel Institute is this institute of art and design that opened up about 100 years ago. And upon its opening, the current, at the time, the chief rabbi of Palestine, Rav Cook, wrote a letter to the Betzalel Institute. And I want to read this letter with you. I want to analyze his words. Let's take a look at it. Here we go. It's printed in a book called Igrot HaRa'aya, which is a famous book of Rav Cook. Here we go. The desire for the beginnings of an art institution in the land of Israel is in essence a sign of life, a sign of hope, salvation, and comfort. Our nation looks well upon the sweet beauty of art, which is expressed through human creativity. However, this relationship is also limited. As we draw close with the left hand, we push away with the right. Amazing words by Rav Cook. Right? It's even really, really super poetic. He's a very poetic, emotional type of writer. Can someone tell me, look at the words of Rav Cook. right? And let's focus on the first part. What are the positive aspects of art that Rav Kook is highlighting? What are the positive aspects of art? What do you see here in his letter? What do you see? Yeah.
Well, he seems to be saying, like, if you can start focusing on art, that means, like, most of your other things are taken care of, like, you live in comfort, so you can, like, go to the next stage of humanity as opposed to just survival. You can, like, start to make things beautiful.
Meaning, no one will say, I don't think, let's make sure that we have a beautiful building when we have no food to eat. Right? What Rav Kook is saying is look how far we've come. And this is 100 years ago, right? Look how far we've come that we can create an art institution. Meaning that there's so much of a demand in Palestine, in Israel, to put emphasis in the world of art. It appears, so he's saying, is that there's like comfort that's involved. And the fact that we're able to invest in art is a sign of we've made it. Good, wonderful. It's a great point. But look at the words he's saying here. Life, hope, and salvation. I mean, this is a rabbi. I want to put this in context, right? Those of you who know Rav Kook. Rav Kook is saying that the creating an art institution is tikva, hope, salvation, geula, and Yeshua. That's crazy. No? I mean, that's like over the top almost. What? I mean, that's pretty powerful. This is he's not a guy who, you know what I mean, who just, says things because he's bored or because he wants to say things because he'll make the Batzalel Institute very happy. Right? He's not into that. He's saying it because he 100% believes it. We're talking about Rav Kook, who when he would plant trees in the land of Israel would get down on his hands and knees and kiss the ground first because he was so excited to be able to plant a tree in the Holy Land. And he really believed it. He was a Kabbalist. He had a very mystical sense of the world around him. And at the same time, he studied one of the greatest yeshiva. Everyone know what yeshiva he studied at? Volozhin. Right? He learned in the yeshiva of Volozhin. Right? His teacher was the Nitziv, the great rabbi. Right? Tzvi Yehuda Tali Berlin. Now, he studied under Rav Soloveitchik, like the great-grandfather. I mean, we're talking about somebody who is totally, his whole life, Rav Kook's essence was just Jewish people. He, loved Jewish people. He loved Israel, land of Israel, people of Israel. And he's saying that creating an art institution is a sign of hope and salvation. Why? Planting a tree, I get it. Creating a yeshiva, I get it. But why an art institution? It's so counterintuitive. Anybody want to have any idea why that is? Yeah.
Maybe they would look for art elsewhere. It would be as appropriate, not like they're English out if they're Judaism.
Okay, good. I mean, as opposed to just having art institutions, here we have art institutions that are under the auspices of something Jewish. Good, wonderful. What else? Great. What do you mean by it? So would he say that about a gymnasium? Do you think he'd write the same things about a gymnasium? No, I don't understand. A gym's an outlet. That's what all my teachers used to tell me in high school, right? Why do guys need basketball? They need an outlet. Right? There's there used to be yeshiva, it's not around anymore, called BMT. They used to call it basketball means Torah. Right? So, I mean, they don't really mean that. But what I'm trying to say is that sports is often an outlet. Is he saying this is an outlet? He's not saying this is an outlet. You don't call something which is redemptive an outlet. Right? Why is he really look at something that is artistic and he says this is the potential is almost unlimited? Why? What is so powerful about art? But take a look at that second paragraph. Our nation looks well upon the sweet beauty of art, which is expressed through human creativity. Where do we see that human creativity is essential to the essence of understanding a human being? Where do we see that? Anyone know this? Where do we see in the Torah that human creativity is the essence almost of a human being? Part of the divine plan. What does God tell Adam? What? So he names the animals, you multiply. But what does God say? Go to the land and the kifshua, capture it. If you take a look as human beings express themselves in a creative way, being creative is a human endeavor. In fact, even in Judaism, when it talks about in Torah, the greatness of a Torah scholar, and the truth is to some extent of any scholarship, not just in Torah, is the power of chidush. If you are not doing anything original, you might be environmentally friendly, you're just recycling things, but what makes someone unique and special is their ability to be creative. Creativity is what makes us unique, right? Inventors are, you can't get a PhD in something that was done already. You need to be innovative. Or else what are you doing? Just regurgitating what's been done before, right? The idea of writing a sefer is called Chidushei Torah. New, original. Right? And we know that Torah has to be original. That you have to connect to it on this personal, individual basis regularly that has to inspire you. And this is through creativity. Creativity is something which is very, very powerful. It's one of the most powerful drives of a human being. Like new organizations, new ideas, new initiatives. No one wants old. It's boring, right? Why is a woman considered almost like God? Not a man, sorry guys. Why? Because women have an ability to create. Okay, I realize that you need, male intervention. I know those things, right? But what I'm trying to say is that the women, her ability to create, look at the word of Chava. What's Chava? Why is she called Chava? At the end of Gan Eden, she changes her name. She's called the Isha, women, and she's changed to Chava. What is, we close the door? I know people are trying to squeeze in the room, but it's just, sorry guys. What is Chava? The Torah says, Ki hi hayta im kol chai. She's the mother of the living. That women have an ability to produce life. I mean, that's an amazing gift. It's creativity. It's the koach hachidush, the power of doing something innovative. I think that's the beauty of art. And that's what Rav Kook saw in this art institute. Your ability to really do something innovative and creative. Okay, next. What's that last line? Do you see this? He talks about things that are hope and salvation comfort. And look at the last line. However, this relationship is also limited as you are close with the left hand, we push away with the right. Wow. So he kind of pulls back from his enthusiasm of art and creativity. And look at it, he's close with the left, and you push back with the right. By the way, anybody know where that expression is taken from? Very good. Who are you supposed to do that to? Small mikarev and yamin dochek. Ever heard the expression? The left brings closer, and the right. By the way, if you do that to somebody, what do you do to them? Watch. I'm bringing here's a person, even though it's not a cell phone. I'm bringing them closer to me with my left, and I'm pushing them with my right. What effect am I doing to them? I'm turning them around, no? So this actually, this is one of the great insights I heard once from my professor at YU. So he said that the whole idea, and by the way, this is said about education. Educating who? Yishmael and Esav. How do you educate someone who's evil? You bring them close with the left, and you push them to the right. What essentially are you doing? You're trying to turn them around. You're trying to change them. Is that neat? So that is, I think, what he's really saying here. He's saying when it comes to art, art has an area in Judaism, a powerful area in Judaism. And what I mean by arts, I mean the whole spectrum of arts, right? And we're going to see there are certain areas of art that are quote-unquote more Jewish than others. We'll see that in a minute. But what we have to be able to do is see where is the role of art and how can it be channeled in a Jewish way? Because as we're going to see, there are ways of art which are antithetical to Judaism. Clearly, anything which is seen upon as a lack of modesty clearly is not considered a Jewish ideal. Anybody here in fine arts? The program Fine Arts? Anybody in the faculty of fine arts? Not one person in the fine arts. I understand why. I have zero artistic talent. When I mean zero, I mean I received a 52 in grade 8 art at Associated. That takes talent, people. That's like talented to do so bad in art. I'm a talented non-artist. That's how I used to dub myself. And like I can't draw a straight line. Like I can't do any of those things. Right? Even with the ruler, I can't even draw a straight line. There's something about art, though. This is something beautiful. And I always admire people that were very artistic. Music, I have very little musical talent whatsoever. People would pay me like not to sing, you know. Baruch Hashem, thank God, my wife's family is very musical, and my children inherited a lot of the musical abilities from my wife's side. So, I mean, they look like my wife's family. My kids, at least they could sing and have like those musical talents. I guess the package deal. Okay, it's not so bad. So actually last night my son had made a bar mitzvah a few months ago. So we were in Cleveland for Shabbat, and my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my wife's sister and husband, never got him a bar mitzvah present. So they decided they're going to buy him a guitar. My son a guitar. So he got his guitar last night. Really nice guitar. Mitzvah. And of course the parents don't pay for lessons. Like that's not fair. You know, they're going to pay for lessons, whatever. So, but my son is really, he has this musical side to him. He loves davening and doing those things, which is really nice. So it's clear that music is a very Jewish idea. No question about it, right? Music is a very powerful Jewish concept when it comes to art. So in fine arts, they tell you something, which I don't know, you know, if you've heard this expression before, and that is, what is the purpose of art? You heard this expression, express yourself? Freedom of expression. Don't hold back. You know, be free and paint the picture and the problem is, those are not Jewish ideals. Hear this clash? There is this inherent clash between Judaism and the world of art. In art, they tell you ever seen before, like, the canvas is empty, and reflect your personality on this canvas, or place your thoughts and your emotions. Where have you guys come from? You never heard this before? You know what I mean? Or music, right? Create your music. That's not necessarily a Jewish ideal. Freedom of expression is important, but certain things we're not free to express. So there's almost this inherent clash between Judaism and art. And that is, you can't always do what you want. I mean, that's the idea of Judaism in general. It tries to challenge with limitations, but you'll see where a few of those areas come into play. So I think it's a very powerful statement by Rav Kook, and I wanted to start with it because I think it really places an important context over what we're doing. Okay. Questions, comments? No. Take a look at let's start with this. Source number 1. I have it in Hebrew, and I have it in English. Lo ta'aseh lecha pesel, v'chol tumuna asher b'shamayim ima'al, v'asher ba'aretz mitachat, v'asher b'mayim mitachat la'aretz. Lo tishachavelem, lo ta'avdem, ki unechia shem lokecha el kano, poker avon avot, al b'nim v'al rebi'im. This one I. In the Aseret HaDibrot, what are not referred to as the 10 Commandments, as you all know, there's no Jewish source for 10 Commandments. They're called the 10 what? Statements or utterances, right? Not 10 Commandments. That's a Christian idea. It says you're not allowed. You cannot make graven images, nor any matter and likeness, or anything in the heaven above, or the earth below, or the water under the sea. You can't bow down to them and serve them at all. You're not allowed to make idols. But look at the next line. So we're skipping a bunch of verses. It's actually verse 20. Lo tasuniti Elohei kesef Elohei zav lo tasu lachem. In English, don't make with me gods of silver, gods of gold. You can't make unto you. Says Rashi, source 2. Look what Rashi says. Lo tasuniti. Lo tasun shemishai mishemshim lifnei marom. And in English, don't create any images of beings that service me. Do you have any idea how this plays out in halacha? Do you have any idea what this is understood to be? Brought down to an aruch. I want to repeat. The Torah says, "Lo tasuniti." You're not allowed to create with me any images. No images. So you'd think, oh, you can't make images of God. That's like a statue, an idol, Jesus, Buddha. You know, fine, I get that. Believe it or not, it is expanded greatly. And I don't know how many of you here are familiar with this. The Gemara learns, do you know what you're not allowed to do? Not just idols. You know what else you're not allowed to make? The sun, the moon, the stars, and angels.
So obviously there's some sort of loophole because we do all of these things. Not full images.
Okay, take a look. Let's just quickly, very quickly take a quick peek. Take a very quick peek at source 10, Shulchan Aruch, black and white. Asur letzayer tzurot shebmidura shechina. You're not allowed to draw anything in the madur. What does that mean? Kigon, 4 pani bahade hadade, 4 faces. Exactly what that means is unclear. V'kein tzurat tzurafim v'afanim malchei sharet. You can't make any pictures of angels. V'chein tzurat adam levado. You should not make a picture of a man. Kol elu asur la'asot afilu hem lenoi, even for beauty. V'im oved kochavim asatam. If a non-Jew makes them asur lahashotam, you might not even be allowed to own them. The commentaries say, what does this mean? What's the midura shechina? Sun, moon, and stars. Holy moly. What's going on here? It appears to be black and white. You can't make pictures of the sun. What am my son doing in kindergarten class? This question was such a powerful question. I wanted to show you where it plays out. Look at source 11, which happens to be tshuva by Rav Kook, that some guy discovered in the back of the machzor of Rosh Hashanah. They mentioned all the constellations, and there are pictures of stars. Constellation. He says, how can a machzor of Rosh Hashanah have stars? Isn't it asur? Isn't it forbidden to draw pictures of stars? How can you have this? And that's source 11. Source 12, we'll see this a little later on. Rav Moshe was asked, Im yesh isur b'tzurei chama, is it forbidden to draw pictures of the sun, the levana, the moon, shetinokot osim, just like kids do? These are serious questions. I will admit, this is in the area of fine arts. You will see, I didn't want to talk about this, but music, anybody know, it appears this is not the common practice, but in other areas of fine art, let's talk about music. If you take a look at every tshuva that discusses music during the 3 weeks, or during what's called Sfirat Omer, do you know what's usually spoken about for 2 or 3 pages before that? How can you listen to music at all? The Talmud says, you're not listening to music after the destruction of the temple. Can't listen to music. Anybody ever been to a wedding in Yerushalayim? Only one musical instrument allowed. It's usually drums. No piano, no guitar. How can you listen to music in Yerushalayim after the Churban? So that's what people do. They don't get married in Yerushalayim because the whole... No, you're not. We're talking about the old city. Okay, so the question is it just at weddings, or is it just music at all? Right? That's the. Some will say just for weddings, in which case, if you have, let's say, they play all these musical instruments. All right, that's the. I don't want to. But we see though that it's clear that normative Jewish practice is not to limit music. Right? That's pretty clear. You know, it's like Shrekky before mad at me, right? David, what's his name? David. What's that famous guy? David. Singer, David. Ben David. Mordechai Ben David. What's mine? You don't know Jewish singers? MBD. Shlomo Krabach, his Yotzer just was a couple of days ago, right? Shlomo Krabach was revolutionary, transformed the whole idea of Jewish music, right? Zmirot that we sing, music is very powerful, and we'll see actually that once you're allowed to do music, we see that music is basically almost unlimited. We don't see the same constraint. Music is a very spiritual thing. And some who might say that's also true in the area of art, in fine arts. But we see that fine arts is limited, we don't really see the music being limited at all. It was you know the tune, Jeror Yikra, that's taken from like a non-Jewish song? Like it comes on to all these like so some people want to argue that how can you use non-Jewish music and insert Jewish words into it? Isn't that like using something, for lack of a better term, non-kosher? Isn't that inappropriate? So the truth is, if you go back, I don't want to spend too much time on it now, but many of the Hasidic nigunim that go back to the 19th and 18th century, famous nigunim of Chabad, were often taken. One was taken from Napoleon's marching song, and one was taken to like a famous beer song that was sung in the tavern, and they just added a sense of spiritual. First of all, no one recognizes that anymore, but that's almost irrelevant. But they saw it as, you know what, it's music. By the way, if you take legally, anybody know, if you take music that someone creates and put your own words to it, is that illegal?
Copyright.
Music is copyright, not just lyrics?
Yeah, that's what they do medleys.
That's what they do medleys, because it changes it. Right. So, by the way, you know what tikva? You know where tikva really comes from?
Like some random, like totally random thing.
It's like Beethoven's Ninth. I made that up. It could be Bach. It could be, I have no idea. But it's not. Most of that comes from. Yeah, they made a couple of changes. Also, I don't know how strong the copyright laws were, back then. But a lot of music that we take for granted is borrowed from music. It appears is expression of one's neshama and deep soul, and therefore, if it's taken from quote unquote a non-Jewish area, it was actually, although there were some people that argued, it appears not. It's a very Jewish. Fine arts is totally different. Fine arts, there's a much more skepticism in that realm. By the way, poetry, which I also wanted to discuss. Anyone know great Jewish poet? Who's a great Jewish poet? Let's go back, not modern. Rav Kook wrote poetry. David HaMelech wrote poetry. What's it called? What was he called? Na'im Zmirot Yisrael. Right? The Torah has poetry in it. Rabbi Halevi, the great, the author of the Kuzari, wrote poetry. Tzion Alot Tishali. Do you know that originally, you know what the rabbi, you know the way drushes used to be on Shabbos? I think Ibn Ezra writes it somewhere. That if you were a rabbi of a shul in Spain, you had to write a new poem. Your drusha was a poem every week. We found them. We found hundreds and hundreds of drushas as poetry, and they're probably even set to some type of music. And if you repeated it, you're like a scammer. So you had to come up, forget a drusha, you want a poem that had rhythm and beat, you know what I mean, every week. That's why Sephardim have good voices. You ever notice, like a Sephardi rabbi has a bad voice? It doesn't exist. The Sephardic culture, you ever notice that? Ashkenazi rabbis usually can't sing. Sephardi rabbis, it's beautiful voice. It's very much musical, right? The Sephardi tradition is much, much musical. They sing everything all that. Ashkenazim are like blah, 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 haluka, They're like, it's almost as if they daven as if they're running from a pogrom, right? Whereas like the Sephardim are like singing all the time. No one's choosing us out of this country. We have lots of time in our hands. We have no problem. Ashkenazim are like daven as fast as possible. I'm gonna get kicked out tomorrow, so we gotta like daven quickly,
You guys have some grants.
By the way, just because you mentioned it, Zmirot on Shabbat have two functions. This is great. I'll give many shirim on this. Anyone know the two functions? Often it depended on who wrote them. Sephardim and Ashkenazim. They're not perfectly. Sephardim often wrote about the theme of Mein Olam Haba. Mashiach, Olam Haba. Ashkenazim wrote Zmirot to teach Hilchot Shabbat. So Zmirot that are written by Ashkenazi, there's a few exceptions. Usually embedded in it Hilchot Shabbat, because it's a great way to teach people through music. That's very helpful. No, people like for example, the Ashena Meshubachat, that's Hilchot Shabbat, right? So Hirorim Mutarim, that's the way to teach people, as opposed to Mein Olam Haba, which often incorporated, Menucha v'Simcha LaYehudi. That's much more messianic. Was often, again, not exclusively, but often had much more of a Sephardi bent. It's really fascinating to learn a lot from Zmirah. Those were songs that made it. Like why those get published on other ones. So I think when we take a look at art, the fine arts, there's so many different aspects. Let's go back though to physical art, which is much more curtailed than other areas of art. So I want to go back in the last 10 minutes that are remaining. Let's go to a source number 3. Source number 3, for those of you that are doing Amud Yomi, we'll get here in a couple weeks. So, Rosh Hashanah and Daf Chav Daled, there's a Mishnah that said the following. So, a quick background. If you wanted to sanctify the moon, originally you established the new moon based on witnesses. So 2 witnesses would see the moon, and they'd say, oh my goodness, that's a sliver of the moon. So if you see the moon like this, Is that the end of the month or beginning of the month? Anybody know which one it is? How do you know if the moon is beginning of the month or end of the month? Great trick. Anybody know?
Maybe.
Very small. But there can be small and small. Which one is the small beginning of the month? Which is the small end of the month? I'm going to teach you guys a trick. You'll never forget this ever again. Ready? Put a stick on top. What letter is it? If you put a stick on top, that's a gimel, a script gimel, right? It's called gimel. Gemar is end of the month. If you see like this, you put a stick on top, it's a script zayin, that's Zaman the Kadesh is the Chodesh. Is that cool? I have no idea who taught that to me. I think it might be in the introduction of Kehati on Rosh Hashanah. Don't quote me on that. I have no idea, but it's a good trick. So you go to the sky, you see the sky, people see a sliver like this. Right, like this, like this. It has to have this shape to it. Don't ask me if it's concave or convex. I get those confused because I blame my grade 8 art teacher. And when two witnesses would see it, they have to run and they would give a testimony that they saw the moon. The Mishnah says, Rabbi Gamliel would do the following. Look at 3. Demut surat levana yul Rabbi Gamliel betavla bekota baliato. Rabbi Gamliel had moons on him to show guys, hey, witnesses, was the moon like this one? Or like this one? How to look. Shebahen mar'at hejotot. He would show it to these people who, they don't know, they're not moon experts. V'omer, hakazeh rita, o kazeh. Was the moon that you saw, did it look like this or like that? Ask the Gemara. Mishari, how could he do this? Vaktiv lo tasuniti, lo tasun kidumut shamshai. Don't make an image of things that serve me, i.e., one of the celestial beings. You're not allowed to make a picture of the moon. How could Rabbi Gamliel make a moon? Answer: Amar Abaye. Lo asra Torah ella shemishin she'efshar lasod k'motan. What's asra in the Torah are only things that look really like them. What does that mean? Let me think about it. It's a moon. It's a moon. Some people want to claim from here Rabbi Gamliel made a 2-dimensional moon. And what's the only thing that's asra to make? A 3-dimensional moon. Meaning a moon that actually has depth. Thank you.
Does that make a difference if it...
What? Oh, I mean you can't make a model of a moon, but you'd be allowed to make all he had were pictures of a moon. That's how some people wanted to argue how to understand this Gemara.
Does that make a difference with color or...
And what about if you made a moon that was purple and the moon's not purple? That might be different enough to do it. All right, let's go on, the Gemara. Hold on. Vatanya, what do you mean? Lotasuniti, lotasun kidmushim shai mishim shilif name bamarom. What do you mean? Anything in the marom, what's the difference? Perhaps others want to argue 2 or 3 dimension. Amar Abaye, no. Lo asra Torah demut, arba panim hadedade. Only that's asr is if you have them all at once. If you have all arba, meaning if you have sun, moon, and stars, and maybe even an angel. That's only that's asr. If you have just one, that might be permitted. The Gemara then continues, which I'm skipping. L'rabot chamal v'nakol chemazalot. Meaning you need to have all these 4 things in order to make it asr. V'ma'al rabot malchei asharet. Perhaps it's also you want to include, you're not allowed to have an angel as well. So we see here that the Gemara is not very happy and is questioning, yes, other celestial beings, not celestial beings. The Gemara in source 4, which is actually the next page, the Gemara wants to say, no, you know why it's permissible? Rabbi Gamliel never made them. Someone made it for him. And what's asur to do? It's only forbidden to make them. But if someone gives it to you, maybe it's permissible. That's source 4. Shani, Rabbi Gamliel dacherim asulo. He never made them. The only thing it says is lo ta'asuniti, don't make them. But if someone makes them for you, maybe it's permissible. The Gemara continues. How can you do that? You're not allowed to even possess them. If someone finds out, oh, you own a moon? So, you're not a worshiper. Meaning, people who own moons, sun, or stars were being suspicious. People would suspect of them as being Oved Avodah Zarah. So therefore, you can't even own them. Meaning, the Isur D'Oraita is to make them, but there's an Isur D'Rabbanan, there's a rabbinical prohibition to even possess them. People might be suspicious that you are a heretic. You're not a worshiper. Dishav Yetiv ben Hadrai, da have be on the Rata. Have al Rav Shmuel Vavod Shmuel Velave Matuatam, Vlochashil Rashada. What are you talking about? There's these famous shuls everywhere that people would daven in that perhaps had these images in them. These communities. Answers the Gemara, Rabbi Mishani. Maybe if it's like a public thing, no one's suspicious that this shul owns the moon, prays to the moon. No, they had images of a moon. Does anybody have in their shul stained glass window Sheshet Yemei Breshit? Anybody have in their synagogue or shul where you have pictures of Sheshet Yemei Breshit? Because what are you going to do on day 4? You have it? Yeah, you'll see this. How you do it? There's sun, moon, stars was created on day 4. Maybe Jewish day schools want to teach kids what was created which day. Right? So day 4 is a big problem. Day 4 are all the celestial things. How do you do that? So maybe if it's owned by the Rabbi, and we're not, you have to be suspicious of a community serving. We don't want individuals. One answer. Another answer. Rabbi Gamliel is Yachid. He's a Yachid. Okay, he was a Nasi. He didn't do it for his purposes. He had the status of a community. The Gemara continues. He had prakim. He never. The moon was like a Lego piece, meaning you put them together. Did your moon look like this? He didn't really own a moon. A piece of a moon he would like kind of put together, and he would break them up. Another answer the Gemara gives. Another answer is he did it for educational purposes. Fiktiv. For educational purposes, you are permitted to have these moons. Because he wanted to teach people, did your moon look like this? Or like that? The Gemara lists a number of quote-unquote heterim. The question is, does it reject them all? Does it accept one? That's a complicated understanding of how to read the Gemara. But the Gemara gives things. Maybe he didn't own the moons. Maybe he had piece of the moon. Maybe he falls in the category of a communal figure, not an individual figure. Maybe he was allowed to do it because he wanted to teach. Yes? Yes, there's no, right, no problem with enough, right. All contemporary poskim have to ask a question. Owning a moon is idol worship in the year 2013 or the year 1950? Not today. We know there's no Avodah Zarah anymore today. It's a Gemara. The desire for the Zarah has been batal. Look at the modern area. Who does Avodah Zarah today? Who cares about moons and stars? Maybe some sonar people who bow down to... Those guys are a bunch of quacks. Right? Pesalim and images, that's legit. Jesus and those things, idols. But sun moons, who does that today? Can one argue that in contemporary society, no one would be like, you own a moon, you're a closet idol worshiper. That's absurd today in the modern era. Can one then say that today there's no problem owning a sun, moon, and star? What about making a sun, a moon, and a star? What about doing artistic expression, artistic freedom? And we're all making drawings of people. Can you own a doll? How could you own a doll? Isn't that an idol? How could you make a doll? Maybe you're not allowed to manufacture dolls. Maybe if you own Barbie, you violate this prohibition of lo tasuniti. You're making Barbie and Ken. And forget the clothing. That's another issue, right? Right? Teach women to be, basically, crazy model-like, and that's an image that we teach people. It's very dangerous. So, I want to show you, and because we really don't have a lot of time, I want to show you two things, and we're gonna stop there. Oh wow, I had a lot more to say. Take a look at Rabbi Moshe Feinstein in source 12. I'm going to do this outside. You guys can look at it later on your own during your lecture, which will be boring. This will be more interesting. Believe it or not, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says, to have children make sun, moon, stars is actually usur. It is forbidden to do. The only thing he says, maybe you could argue that since they're kids and they're so bad at art, they don't really look like a sun, moon, stars, so it's permissible. But then again, a kid was going to think that he remembered in grade 1, he made this picture, when he gets older, I think you can do it. Rabbi Moshe is not very happy with making legit sun, moon, stars. I don't know, but in some places you'll notice that when they make the sun, they only make the sun like in this corner. That's not a full sun, it's only a part sun. Maybe that'd be permitted. Take a look at the Chochmas Adam in source 13. Second line. This is very important. Venerally. Surat Adam bizman hazeh mutter. The Chochmas Adam, who's the Chochmas Adam? Same as the Chai Adam. Who's the Chai Adam? Alfred's more famous to become the Chai Adam. Greenberg, he's from Lita, from Lithuania, 19th century. He wrote that today in the modern era, when I mean modern era, I mean 19th century, it is permitted to make images of man. Not everyone agreed to this opinion, but this is a lenient opinion that people rely on. Mutter. Why? Lashotan, you'd own it. So he says again, making it might be a problem, but owning it is not a problem anymore. Why? But that guy who's worshipped, what's he referring to? Jesus. They make him in a certain way. And his disciples. They always make a simon on that for sure you're not allowed to have. Or for sure if you smash out the eye of the doll or of a pesel, it's not a problem. Rav Moshe Feinstein was asked a question in 15. When Kennedy was assassinated, a community outside of Boston, the community in Boston wanted to make a big statue, and the idea was to have achdus in the community and to go around to every religious denomination and have like a communal event where every community and every denomination religion puts money in, and they buy a big statue of Kennedy in his memory in the city of near Boston to memorialize him. And so the rabbi of the town said, am I allowed to raise, I'm going to go to my congregants and say, give money to make a pesel of Kennedy? Is that permissible or not? Moshe actually comes out lenient and he says, first of all, you're only contributing to part of it. Second of all, does not look good if the Jewish community says we're not doing it because it's like idol worship. That's not going to go over so well. And third of all, you're just contributing. Okay, he said different stipulations and conditions, but I just want to show you that it's a real case. I think that the in source 11, Rav Kook has to deal with how can you have pictures of stars at the back of the machzor. How are you supposed to deal with that? So he says if it's to know about them, to know what they look like, maybe it's permissible. For chinuch purposes, maybe it's permissible based on the heter of the lamed for Rabbi Gamliel. So maybe if you want to know I want to know about constellations, I'm not doing it for idol worship. I'm doing it for to understand Ma Rabu Masach Hashem. Maybe intent is very important. So perhaps for intent, there might be more room. So maybe if you throw in the leniency of no one does that today, leniency of they don't really look like a star or a moon or a sun, or I'm having them but I'm not being choshed because who does that, and maybe I'm doing it for educational purposes, those would be leniencies why you'd be allowed to own them and to have them. Let's end with Rav Kook. This is actually translated by a good friend of mine, Rabbi Yehuda Sarna, the former JLIC educator in NYU. Take a look at the last page 4. Rabbi Dr. Benjamin Levin related, on one of our walks, we used to take with Rav Kook every day to Busk in Latvia in 1901. These holy ideas emerged from his mouth. I immediately handed him my pen. As he sat on one of the stones near the ruins of the fortification, he wrote these words. Literature, painting, and sculpture are able to bring to fruition all the spiritual concepts engraved in the depth of the human spirit. And so long as one brush is missing, which is stored away in the depth of the spirit, which ponders and feels, but has not been realized, there is still an obligation on the purposeful work to realize it. The matter is self-evident, that only these treasuries, that when they are opened, they will sweeten the air of all existence. It is good and beautiful to open them, quote, from every utterance which came out of God's mouth. The entire world was filled with fragrance, end quote. However, those hidden things whose burial and their nullification or shovel must be ready to dig out, but also to cover. Woe is to him who uses the shovel for the opposite purpose, for the sake of a woman. The tremors of the spirit from the natural emotions of love, which indeed has a great portion of in our reality, ethics, and life, are really to be explained through literature of every angle, since it brings out those things which were hidden. However, they need be guarded from the angle of drunkenness, which is sometimes present in these feelings, since this angle turns them from their natural purity to vulgar impurity. Only holy people can be holy ministers. what Rav Kook is saying, the great artists of the world need to be people who have Kedusha to them. That if you think that any Joe Schmo can paint and write and make, then you're missing the point. It's a deep way to express spiritual ideals through the fine arts. And if you have an essence of Kedusha, a way of connecting people, inspiring people, then art is the way to do it. And hafuch, the opposite is also true. That if you want to teach people about vulgarity, and you want to teach people about schmutz and they're disgusting, about the loneliness of human spirit, it is also, unfortunately, perhaps a way to do it through the mechanism of art. But one thing we see clearly is for sure is that art, for Rav Kook, has a tremendous sense of human creativity, of the divine nature of the human spirit, how it has an ability to really be transformational and to express people and to bring people to a really higher understanding of God and appreciation for the world around them, albeit in the proper context. And Rav Kook spent a short period of time in England during World War I. He left Israel and got trapped because of World War I. And then he was taken to see the pictures of Rembrandt. Rembrandt, is that how you pronounce his name? Rembrandt. And an article was published on Rav Kook's encounter with these paintings. If you want, I can share that with you. It was printed up in the paper that I printed out somewhere from 1912 or 1914. It's not very clear. Rav Kook on art. Rembrandt and the Divine Light. Fascinating when they interviewed him after he visited the paintings. So I think, especially for Rav Kook, who saw Kabbalah and he saw mysticism in art has tremendous potential. I think, like everything, it has a proper place and a proper time. And hopefully, if we can use art to elevate the human spirit, to enlighten others and to inspire others, and how beauty is art, and how beauty and wonder is creativity, Marabu Masacha Hashem is able to really produce and bring out the depth of the human spirit to be transformative and inspirational. We'll end there for today. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming again to Rebecca, and the next event will be part of the dinner in November.